Good morning, everyone. How's it going? I hope you can see this. We're going to be doing portraits today. I'll wait a little longer and see if we get more people to come on. I have a slightly different angle this morning because I'm hoping you can see more detail this way. A little bit of a different setup. How's everyone doing? I'll just chat a little bit before people come on and talk about my weekend. I got some new painting supplies. I got this little set of gouache paint, and I haven't really worked with gouache before, but this is so much fun. It's similar to watercolor, but it's more opaque. So it's somewhere between watercolor and acrylic paint. But they're really fun. They come in these little tubes, and if you put them out and work with them and then they dry, you can reuse them. But it's nice if you have a small space. Like I know many of you are working in small areas. So I would recommend getting a set of gouache paints. And if you're interested, let me know. I can do a little demo. I did this fun kind of study this week, just trying out different techniques with, you can get these like watercolory effects, or you can work a little thicker with it and get like acrylic paint effects. And I actually will mix them into my acrylic paints also. So they're pretty fun. Just recommend that if you want to try something that's similar to acrylics but slightly different and takes up a little less room in your studio. Those are fun, gouache paints. So we are going to be working on portraits today. Hey, Alana. Awesome to see you. Good morning. I hope everyone had a fun weekend. I had an awesome weekend. I love the weather. Got the garden going. It felt good. Okay, so we're doing portraits today, and I included a couple links in the description of this video if you want to work from a photograph. I am going to work from a mirror. I'm going to do a self-portrait. Now, if that's intimidating to you, you don't have to do that. You could print out something, but we are going to talk about the front, just features of the face. And we're going to start with drawing, and then we're going to explore some glazing techniques again. Hi, Joanne. So you will want to, yay, hi, Lisa. So you'll want to have, it's up to you. If you want to work from a mirror, great. If you want to look at the links that I sent out, they're in the description, and I unfortunately didn't copy them, but you can go into the description of this video and click on, there's 2 links there if you want photo reference, or just type in front view, portrait, angle, or something like that, and you should find something. But I'm going to just talk about like basic things. Yay, Jamie. I'm going to just talk about basic features of the face and like dealing with them. But I find with portraits, you're not going to get it the first time. If you've never made a portrait before, don't expect it to look like super realist right away. It takes some practice. And my recommendation is to try different things, keep an open mind. In the beginning, don't, these are studies. Today we're just doing a study. So you can work on paper if you want, or canvas, it's up to you. I want to just talk about a couple fun exercises you can try. You could do them today, or you can do them at home. But one is to take a portrait like this, cut it in half, and then use your pencil or your drawing tool to draw in the other half of the portrait. I mean, obviously faces aren't completely symmetrical all the time, but this can be a good exercise just for seeing how the face is laid out, but also just like for basic drawing skills. You could do this with anything really, with any, like, you know, a photograph of a still life if you wanted. Another good technique is to actually turn it upside down. So that way you're just really just looking at it and trying to do the opposite of it rather than drawing what you think you're supposed to be drawing. So I find this to be a cool way, just a good drawing lesson in general to try doing. And you can get into doing some of the shadows this way. So that's one thing you might try. Either you can do that today or another time. Another little cheat secret. Hey, Charlotte. Hi, Paulette. Another little cheat secret you can do. I'd already drawn underneath that. Another little thing you can do if you want is to take some charcoal and rub it on the back side of your portrait or of your photograph, like this. A lot of artists do this, tons of them. Don't be fooled. I mean, we all, you know, artists, people have good drawing skills as well, but this is a very common trick. And then you would tape it down wherever you need to, and then you can go ahead and outline your face. This trick is also really good just to get you acquainted with the features of the face, if you want. And also, everyone traces things differently. So I think that that's kind of like, I think that's a really interesting thing also. So that's why I don't really consider this, you know, cheating or doing anything bad. Hey, Liz, how awesome. Cece says hi, yay. Hi, Cece. Come and draw a portrait with us. So let's look at this. You can see a little bit of a sketch there now. So if you wanted to, this is a really good and easy way and quick even, a nice way to get your drawing down on paper. And then from here, you can paint on top of it. We are going to attempt to actually draw our portraits today, if you wish. I thought to start with, let's do a couple contour drawings with marker, and you could be doing these on a separate piece of paper. I just thought this is a good warm-up exercise. We'll take like a couple minutes and do that, and then we'll move into our actual sketch, our actual piece today. But let's just do some blind contour to start with. So like I said, I'm going to work with my mirror, and I'm doing something kind of weird because I'm looking at it this way, but I'm drawing this way, which isn't, I don't know, maybe I'll try this. Just will have to turn away from you. All right, so again, try not to look at your page when you're doing this today. And everyone has a different place where they start. Again, just work really slowly around the features of your face. I'm finding myself looking occasionally, so that's okay. and just draw, again, pretend like an ant is crawling around your face and you're following its trail with your pen. Ta-da! So yeah, I like to warm up with contour drawings just to get me used to looking at something. But I am gonna move into working with charcoal now. And we'll talk about the different features of the face, different things to think about and look at. I'm gonna work on this canvas paper, but you could work on just regular paper. We are gonna move into doing some glazing today, but we'll start with this. And if you have a charcoal, work with that. But if not, you can just work with a pencil or a pen. That's fine. So I'm going to work from my mirror, but I'm not sure what y'all are doing. So I rarely start with an outline of the face. I'm going to just say that right now. But I know I also have been doing this for a long time, so I think it is easy to just do that, to just start there. So if you're thinking about your head being like the very top of the head, just make a very loose outline here for your face. The eyes begin, the middle of the eyes begin roughly halfway down. And that's something a lot of people don't do in the beginning. They tend to put the eyes up too high and then there's no forehead. So the eyes usually start about halfway down. Something I like to do also is indicate like a little shadow for the nose and maybe a little shadow for the mouth and a little shadow for the chin. So if you're ever doing a painting or a drawing and you just put those things in, often that is enough to just imply a face. But we're going to come in here, we're going to actually do some features. So if you think about your eyes, they are in sockets in your head. So, there's a skull underneath your skin. And the eyeballs sit inside of those sockets. And then your eyelids come over the sockets, or I'm sorry, come over the eyeballs. And that's what gives that stylized shape of like this almond shape that we see our eyes are often stylized to look like. That's because the skin is covering the ball, the eyeball. So I like to think about the eye that way. And then often the pupil is covered by the lid. And then whatever, I have very prominent eyebrows that I like to accentuate here, but I like to put the eyebrows then on the brow bone. And you can feel that also. So usually there's about an eye width between the two eyes. And then another eye width on the side of the face. And you can measure that if you're looking at a photograph. Often when people are working from life, like right directly from a mirror, they will make the eyes really big. That is very common. It's something I really enjoy, are some of those visual distortions that happen when people draw from a mirror. So often the eyes will be too big, but I kind of like that. So you see, I also like to put in that shadow there around the nose, the bridge of the nose. Okay, so the side of the nose usually begins around here where there's the tear duct of the eye. And then from there, think of your nose as like a triangle on your face. And the ball of the nose, the tip of the nose, is often bigger than people will make at first when they're doing a portrait. So try to get that ball, like if you see a highlight or something there, I like to indicate that. And then just look at the bottom of the nose. I'll do this with marker because it might be easier to see. So this is one of the things when you look in a mirror, you're constantly shifting your angle. I'm going to try to do straight on. The nose curves down here, and I only see a little bit of the nostril on the bottom here. And then there's a shadow on the side here. For today, I'm going to just draw the mouth with just straight on, trying not to laugh. If you're going to do a grin or a smile, everything needs to shift. The eyes need to shift, the nose needs to shift. All the muscles of your face are shifting when you smile. So you can't just have this deadpan look and then put a smile on. It can look really weird. Thanks, Alana. So, I mean, maybe I could, but you know, that's sometimes people will do that. They'll draw everything super deadpan and then like they smile and it looks really weird. So we're just gonna do a straight on mouth. I usually start with the opening of the mouth or the middle line of the mouth. So for today, I'm gonna try to keep my mouth closed when I'm drawing it. Okay, the dip of the top lip usually is the same angle, the same curve as the bottom of the nose. So that should help you out a little bit. And then I'm gonna just work with the line in the middle of the mouth. It looks funny, but so since the mouth curves around the face, I mean, we have round faces. Our features are kind of like going back. So there's usually like a little bit of a shadow in the corners. There should be, not usually, but there is a shadow on the corners of the mouth. Depending on your light source, there should be a little bit of a shadow going, like being cast from your bottom lip to the top lip. And then the bottom lip, I mean, it depends, you know, are you wearing makeup or not? But usually there's these little lines in that bottom lip also. Sometimes one of the things about working from photographs that I don't love as much is a lot of times they're airbrushed. So I love to see all the lines and all the interesting, uh, yeah, shadows and stuff in a face. And then I'll put in my little chin line here. Okay. I get into stuff like the lines on the side of the nose, um, the shadows under the mouth, and then looking at the shape of the face. The side of the face here, if you're looking straight at your reference, there's some space there. And again, depending on your light, usually this bottom half of the face is a little more in shadow. So I like to just indicate where that shadow is going to go. And I got a little bit of a chin here I'm going to put in, and then my neck. There's a shadow that the face casts onto the neck. So often when you're painting the neck, these are going to be cooler tones down here. To do a little knot here. So I'm not really seeing my ears from this angle. Let's see. Usually I just see like a little bit of something here. But it depends. And if you need to line it up, use your pencil and just, you know, figure out where the top of that ear is or where the bottom of the ear falls. So I like to approach the portrait this way rather than like, okay, halfway down is this, 3/4 of the way down is this. You know, I get confused with that kind of information. Don't get the circle on the tip of the nose. You mean you don't understand? So there's like this ball of cartilage here on the tip of your nose, and your nose sticks out towards the viewer. So when I talk about foreshortening, remember I talked about like if something is really close up to you, it's big, and then if something's further away, it's small. Because your nose sticks out of your face, you need to make it a little bigger than people are inclined to make. What I notice is sometimes people will like do these like tiny noses and they won't do any cartilage on it. So it looks like this really small nose. So you want to try to get that ball at the end of it. And even if you're not, like, let's say, some noses can be a little bit flatter and you don't see that ball as much, but you still want to get the size of it. You want to look at that. But just be aware of that here. That shape here that's sticking out. Be aware of that. Because sometimes people just don't put it in. I don't know if that makes sense. Our nose is like a wedge it's like a triangle wedge put on our face. I'm doing a side view here. So you want to get like the volume of it. And I find that seems to be the thing people don't do enough of in the beginning when they're first painting a portrait. Another thing about the nose that's important is to get the shadow underneath it. And we tend to get scared of that because it looks like, if you don't do it right, it can look like this weird mustache or something. But there is a shadow under the nose, and that's what's helping to make it look like it's sticking out. Thanks, Roberta. I'm glad that's helpful. Okay, so next up, I'm going to do my hair. The hair, like if this is the top of the head, the hairline, like, where my hair here is growing out would be, I don't know, I usually just sort of eyeball this, but I'm going to put it around there. Give yourself a lot of room for your hair. So my bangs are growing out here. And with hair, try to think of it as a shape rather than all these strands of hair that you have to do individually. Think of it as like these shapes of hair, these chunks of hair. And that's going to give you a little more of like this effect of hair rather than often I'll just see people like doing, individual strands. So try to, the super exaggeration of it is like if you can think of like one of those like little like Lego characters or whatever, the ones that had the hair snap on and off. You don't want it to be that severe, but even with like these strands of hair I have on the side, I'm trying to think of that as a shape rather than as like 5 different strands of hair. And then for me, some of this is going back. So some hair, like hair is a different thing. Everyone's got different hair. I think with one of the pictures that I sent out, I put in the link there, the person had like blonde straight hair. And in that case, the hair will cast a little bit of a shadow. Let's see if I have something I can do this with. Okay, even on this person, the hair, you see that little shadow there? Even though her hair is pulled back, that little shadow there tells me a lot about the volume of the hair. So people will often forget those shadows, especially when they're doing light hair. They'll just go for it with the light color, but you need that dark shadow around the face or wherever the hair is falling to show that there's dimension and form there. So I think like if it's helpful, try to think of the hair as interlocking shapes rather than individual strands of hair. Sarah, I'm glad this is helpful. Okay, I'm going to move on. I know we're all at different stages, but I'm going to go ahead and use some of my acrylic glazing medium. And I'm going to put a little bit of that down. And what we're going to do next is we're going to use our medium and we're just going to brush over these lines and blend them together. And what this does is it kind of helps you to jump into your painting. Because sometimes people are just really afraid to start painting. And since we've done this in charcoal, this is going to blend really nicely, whether you're working on paper or canvas. So you want to get like a nice flat brush, or even if you want to use a round, you can. But now take your medium. Got this clear medium. This works with water too. So if you don't have this, use just water. And now we're going to go around and we're going to start blending these marks. And don't be afraid of getting it. If it gets really dark, just go with it, because we're going to paint on top of it. And if something messes up, it's okay. We're using acrylic. We can easily fix this when we start working with the paint. But you see what I'm doing here? I'm starting to try to jump into the painting of this now. Ursula has appeared. And you know, this is a good time, whether you're working from a mirror or whether you're working from a photograph. Look at those lights and the darks, the highlights and the shadows. I personally like to exaggerate those things, but to each their own. And I'll just say, like, the more you do this, the more you do portraits, the better, obviously, the better you're going to get at them. And that's why I like to do a portrait every day, because it just gets me to try out my materials in different ways also. This might be getting a little too dark. If you're working on paper, your material may be blending a little bit different than mine. So this is a nice approach because it gets you into painting your portrait, and it also will adhere that charcoal to the canvas. I see you. So I'm going to go ahead and put this shadow I'm seeing at the bottom half of my face. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. So yeah, since we're working with acrylics, this is one approach. If you were working with watercolor, you might approach it differently. But since we can build this up with layers of paint, this is how we're doing it. If you want to mix a little bit of white into your paint, into your glazing fluid, if you feel like that might help with some of this, feel free to do that. Mixing a little bit here for the bottom lip. Usually the bottom lip is slightly lighter than the top lip. Just because if the light is coming from above, it catches on the bottom lip a little bit more. And for me right now, I have a big highlight on the tip of my nose. So I am mixing a little bit of white into my glazing medium just to show that, because otherwise my nose is going to get lost. So I just put a little bit of white in there. And I also want to get that shadow underneath the nose. I find like the nose is usually the hardest, the biggest challenge for people, like really making it stick out. And it's one of the biggest challenges for me also sometimes. So it's probably why I'm focused on it. Okay, it's already awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Well, I'm about to put a little color on here. So since this is, I mean, I was going to suggest using a touch of ultramarine blue in your glaze. I'm going to try it out. But since we already have, this is already a kind of a dark, cool color, you probably don't need to do that. But I'm going to mix a touch of ultramarine into my glazing fluid. And I'm going to just, you see how that's just very transparent on there? This is a nice, and you know, if portraits are unfamiliar to you, this is a nice gradual way of building up your painting, is doing these thin layers, these thin transparent layers. So you're not completely obliterating, you're not completely covering your portrait. You're just very gradually coming into it. And like I was talking about last week, that's one of the things I see people doing is they'll mix this like orangish color for themselves or something, and then they'll start painting and they cover up their entire drawing. And if you're not sure where your portrait's going, if this is new to you, my suggestion is to just use these transparent layers to just kind of arrive and build up colors. To get to your portrait. I mean, if you look at, I'm looking at my face in here, and you know, this part of my face is a total different color than this part here. So I don't want to use just one flat color for my face. You could also play around with, you know, maybe putting a cool glaze on the bottom half of your face, and then, I mean, depending again on the light, but on the warmer parts of the face, maybe mix a little alizarin crimson into your glaze, and do like a light. You can see that's a really light pink there on the cheeks. So this is how like this glazing technique can be really useful. I'm even going to just put it over my hair so you see that. So I hope that's making sense to all of you. So you can go ahead, do some glazing. Now what I'm gonna do is, believe it or not, I'm actually gonna mix up a dark color and I'm gonna start to place in the darkest areas of my face. We all have different face. I realize like I have pretty prominent like dark eyes and hair, and that might not be the case for you. But still, like, go in and just wherever you see the darkest values in your portrait, I like to go in and just like maybe define that a little bit more. So I'm gonna mix my ultramarine, my burnt umber, and my alizarin together to get a dark value. And just come in and start painting some of these darker areas. The eye, that little shadow there. I might even come in and start painting some of this hair in there. Okay, and the next step I'm going to do is mix a color for some of these lighter areas here. So I'm going to try to show you my palette here. This is what I've got for my palette. I'm going to start by taking some of my cadmium yellow. If you have burnt sienna out, that could be a good one. I'm going to just take some of that and a little alizarin and mix those two colors together with a little bit of white. Just see what I have. I'm going to make it a little bit more orange, a little redder. So I have this kind of pinkish color here, and I'm going to start to put that in and just paint over some of these areas. I might also like mix a few, if it helps you to mix a couple of different colors for yourself, you can mix a range and then apply them on top of the painting. So now we're going to start putting in some of our lighter, more opaque areas. So one place I like to start, and the nose is a good place to start. I actually like to start here in the eye also. Sometimes you can see the top lip or the top lid of the eye. And if you use your glazing material, you can just be plugging this in really thin and build up to what you want. So I want this to be a little bit more orange. So I'm going to mix a touch of yellow into my color and a little bit more white. And yeah, you notice I'm like painting around the face. People do different things. I find this useful. Like I'll take one color and I'll just work around the whole face and kind of plug it in. Because I've already put a shadow down, and then I do this more transparent layer over it, that shadow is going to help create a shadow in the face. I don't know if that made sense. I'm going in and basically blocking in the different areas of the face. I like to use this cadmium medium with a little bit of white and yellow for some of the warmer areas like the chin. Well, that's a little too light, but maybe the top of the nose here, getting some of those highlights there. Now, right now, the nose and the chin are super popping out, which tells me I probably need to put this in other places. So I will look around my face where I have these other highlights and begin to plug them in. So that way everything is integrated together. There's usually a little bit of a highlight on the top of the lip, depending on whether you're wearing lipstick or not. So I like to get that in there. And also underneath here. And then just going to move around the face and try to, make my corrections and make everything look integrated. And you might also use, with the glazing medium, you can really blend everything, but you might also like try to paint with the contours of the face. Like in circular motion for the cheeks or something like that. I'm going to mix a little ultramarine into my colors to get some of these shadows on the side of the nose. I'm going to move to a smaller brush for some of this stuff in the nose here. So inspiring. Thanks, Liz. Even though I make a portrait every day, honestly, I'll still get to a point where I'm like, is this going to work? Is it actually going to happen? You want to get that little shadow underneath the tip of your nose right there. I may have made the mouth a little too close to the nose, but oh well. There's a little bit of a shadow underneath here, the chin. My nose kind of is starting to get lost again, so I'm going to come in. And try to pull it back out with some highlights. I'm going to come into the eye and talk about the eye for a minute. I don't like my nose. So with the eye, it's not just like, it's not just flat, pasted on like that. There's little shadows on the corners of the eye and even on the top of the eye that the eyelid is casting down. And two eyes are like, your two eyes aren't necessarily the same. You know, especially if I'm looking at the mirror, one eye is getting different light than the other eye. So I'm not going to necessarily paint them the exact same way. And then for the whites of the eye, even though that's probably the lightest part of your face, it's not necessarily white out of the tube. You can add a touch of something to it, something like one of your skin colored colors you can add to the white. So just because it's the lightest area doesn't mean it's bright white out of the tube. And something that's very crucial also is the bottom lid. Like you can see on here, the bottom lid. You want to make sure you get that in there. It's just going to give, I mean, you know, we all interpret the portrait differently, but if you get that, I did that a little too severely, but if you get that bottom lid in there, it just gives it a little more dimension. And then sometimes you might want that highlight in your eye as well. I'm going to try to get some of the reflections in the eye here. I'm going to go in with a darker value. I'm going to mix a black up for myself. Just because my eyes are pretty dark, we're going to come in and exaggerate that eyeball or the pupil there a little bit more. And then take that dark color and try to define some of these lines here. There might be a little bit of a shadow underneath your eye because it does stick out. Of course, it depends on how photoshopped or how airbrushed your picture is. Kind of exaggerated that. Yeah, if you just work with your paint fairly transparent, it might just help you just gradually get to where you're going with this. And I want to bring that nose out a little more again. Noses are tricky because there's like this shadow here at the tip. So I'm going to mix up a darker, like I'm going to take burnt sienna and a little ultramarine to get a darker value. And I'm going to try to get that. This for me is always the hardest part of the portrait, is getting the tip of the nose. And whatever eyebrows you're doing, it's not just like one flat shape. They curve around your brow. I like to get some of these lines in here. Mouth is looking funny. So I hope this is giving you a jumping off point with the portrait. I want to next time we're going to do another portrait. We're going to do some mixed media techniques. So I'm going to work from a portrait next video. I'm going to work from self-portrait again, but it's up to you. But we're going to explore a couple mixed media approaches. And I want to encourage you to just keep on the self or on the portrait path and just keep plugging away at it. And then at some point, I want to do figures, probably next week. And if anyone has questions, let me know. kind of funny. Just to talk about the hair a little bit more. Look at the highlights of the hair. I mean, not just the shape of it, but also the different values. Um, like with me, for example, just because I have dark hair doesn't mean it's all going to be painted dark. I'm going to try to paint some of the highlights where the light is hitting the top of my hair. So if you're working today and you like what you did, please send me your finished portraits. I would love to see them. Um, and let me know if I have permission to post them on my blog. Uh, I sent in, but please, if you did it, I would love to see them. And if you don't want me to post them, I don't have to. I would just really like to see them. Are you using the glaze throughout this portrait? I am, Paulette, yes. And the reason why I am is because it keeps the paint blendable. And I encourage you to do that. If painting a portrait is weird and uncomfortable, I find using that glaze just is a nice way to kind of ease into it. But yeah, I am. I'm not liking how the mouth is looking here. So let's see. Are you? In general, I want to kind of lighten up this portrait. So I'm going to use a lighter glaze on here. So doing these glazes can help to just gradually get you to where you got to go. I'm not sure if this is going to work here when I did. Okay, I can just keep going back and forth now with this. One thing I like to do, y'all know, I like to take a color, I'll probably mix a little ultramarine into my white and come in here now and clean up some of these edges. Maybe paint like some of the lines through the strands of hair. If I need to reshape the face a little bit, I will, but I love to take that color and paint around the whole portrait and just clean up edges. I'm using like just a pretty basic gray, blue. That's where I am right now. I'm probably going to end this video pretty soon. I hope everyone's doing well. Let me know if you have questions. Some of the things, like if I was really concerned here with the portrait, some of the things I might do, I mean, I know like the drawing's a little bit crooked, but I'd probably come in here and try to develop like the corner of this eye a little bit more, and look at that, the highlights in there. The nose is really needing a little work here. I'm kind of losing it. The glaze can help you like blend out some things. So different to see it in there in this computer screen than in real life. But there's those corrections I could make, but I could also just leave it and do a new one. So please send me your portraits. Let me know if you have questions before I log out of here. Let me know if this was useful to you. If you like these videos, please give it a thumbs up or share it with your friends. It's definitely helpful. And I just also want to say thank you, everyone, for continuing to watch with me and paint with me and, yeah, share your work with me. I want to pop this out from the neck a little, so I want to go a little darker down here in the neck. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop there. All right. I look forward to seeing all of you on Thursday. We're going to do a mixed media portrait. So if you want to work from a photograph, you can. If you want to work from a mirror, you can. We're going to have fun, play with our materials, and have a good time. So enjoy the beautiful weather today, and thank you again for painting along with me. And I'll see you next time. Bye.